Imagine reaching the peak of success, luxury homes, financial security, but then reaching a point where you realize that none of that really matters. That's where I found myself living what seemed like the perfect life, inside feeling completely lost and disconnected. So how could that happen? Look at the height of what people would call success. I felt like I was living in a mental fog, questioning the very foundation in my life. And the strange part is that I had followed all the rules of what society said I should follow. And here I was feeling empty inside. And the amount of noise out there, the contradicting advice of experts, family, friends, I was super confused. And for the first time in my life, I had mornings where I didn't want to get up or face the world. And I thought about my situation, like, how did I get there? And I thought, what if transforming your life isn't about doing more or achieving more, but about having a clear aim, truly understanding what are you doing, why you're doing it, becoming aware, and then taking action to move toward the outcomes that you want. You see, when I found myself lost, not knowing how to rebuild a new life, these are the 3 steps that I kept repeating in sequence: aim, awareness, and action. I repeated this very simple pattern to help me navigate, to make choices every day. Again, aim, awareness, action. And over time, I came to understand that these 3 steps can become the foundation for real and lasting change. And in a complex world with so many difficult decisions and challenges, so much going on, sometimes what you need is a simple solution, a simple tool that helps you move forward. And at that point in my life, that was a tool. So you see, I think that life transformation was about working harder, like pushing further, achieving like even bigger goals. And then I found myself at this crossroads. By society's standards, I was super successful. I had properties in multiple countries, a super title, but inside I felt disoriented. And then my marriage came to an end. And I questioned everything, what I was doing, how I had moved so far away from my true interests, my passions, what had pulled me forward when I was young. I was losing the spark. I refer to this as my cliff moment, where I realized that I had been living without intention or purpose. I wasn't present. I wasn't aware, and I certainly didn't have an aim. So let's dive into these 3 foundational steps. Step number 1, aim. Defining your direction. So aim is about defining the outcome, the result you want to achieve, and connecting that to your deeper purpose. It's not just about like setting goals. It's about clarity and meaning. Aim is the combination of the what and the why. And without a why, aim is just hollow. It's just like this checklist without a purpose. So let me tell you now why aim matters. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychologist, said, those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. And that's key. Your aim is that why, that thing that gives your life direction and focus, which allows you to persevere even when you get faced with, massive challenges. So when you have a clear aim, it organizes your entire world. It affects what you notice, what you prioritize, and how you approach challenges. And, Jordan Peterson said, and I'm going to paraphrase this, but he said, you're an aiming creature. Your mind and body are there to pursue goals. If you have a clear aim, the more your decisions and actions align with that. But how do you define your aim? So first, start by asking, what is the outcome you want? And be specific. Don't just say, I want to be happy. Define what happiness looks like for you. For me, I wanted to rebuild my life. I wanted to feel inspired again. I wanted to get out of the dark place where I found myself. I wanted to feel alive again. Then second, ask yourself, why do you want this? Why does it matter to you? When your aim is tied to a meaningful purpose, it becomes an anchor, keeps you grounded and motivated. For me, it was like survival, to be honest. Psychological survival. I thought I was like drowned, I could fall to depression. The symptoms were there. Life had lost meaning, was turning dark. And I had always been full of life. I'd always been optimistic. So I knew I could find a way. I just needed to build a new compass, a new framework. Step 2, awareness, understanding yourself and your reality. Aim gives you direction, but awareness shows you where you're starting from, because it's key to understand the gap between where you are now and where you want to be. And that's such a critical step. You can't move forward in a certain direction if you don't know where you're starting from. And I know it sounds simple, but it isn't. And it's a journey. It requires curiosity and courage and forces you to look within and understand the forces shaping your life. It's really this inner exploration. And when I started to explore my thoughts, my beliefs, and the actions that I was taking, I saw patterns I hadn't realized were there in my life. Awareness requires you to ask hard questions. I found childhood wounds that were locked away deep within me. And I realized that most of my beliefs were not truths. They were just stories I've been told about life, about what I'm supposed to do. And the more I observed and the clearer it became, I had been living according to a script written by others, but not by myself. And I came to see that this path to success, make my way up the ladder at all costs, was in fact not my dream. Yes, I enjoyed what money could provide. Amazing. But my soul inside was feeling empty. I lost a sense of adventure, like low cost travel got completely changed, replaced by luxury. There was no taste, no spice. Like writing, playing the guitar, reading books, being inspired by greatest thinkers, that was set aside. I had responsibilities, I had duties, and that came first before my own sense of fulfillment. And suddenly I became aware of these beliefs in my life and how they had guided my decisions. And it was not an all or nothing case, not one or the other. Life is full of contrasts. It's many shades of gray, but I saw that I had adopted one set of beliefs to the detriment of actually what inspired me. So it's important to understand, awareness isn't about judgment. It's about curiosity. It's about seeing yourself clearly, but without getting stuck in regret or blame. And science tells us self-awareness actually reduces stress, it improves emotional regulation, and it helps us make better decisions. So it has really a positive impact on how you feel inside. And for me, it revealed these invisible forces that were driving my life and allowed me to course correct and make some key changes. Now, step number 3, action. And this is how you bridge the gap. And ultimately, action is probably the most important step. Aim gives you clarity of direction. Like awareness gives you insight into your reality. But action is what gets you moving forward. Without action, even the best intentions, what are they? They're just intentions. So when I began my journey, I realized that every insight I gained was an invitation to act. I was reading so much, but then I felt paralyzed. And action is what broke the pattern, got me moving. So it's key that you break this cycle of inaction. This is where so many get stuck. We see patterns, we know what we need to change, but then we hesitate and maybe we're comfortable, maybe we're afraid. But awareness without action is just insight without impact. So, I'd see a behavior I wanted to change or a belief that was holding me back, and I ask myself, what can I do differently today? What step can I take? What action can I take? Without the action, nothing was changing. And now look, action doesn't have to be dramatic. In fact, the most powerful transformation often comes from small, consistent steps. These micro actions, they might seem like insignificant in the moment, but over time, they create a momentum. They build and compound. And for me, it wasn't about changing my whole life overnight. It was just by taking this one step at a time to get me toward my aim. Building a new framework, that was daunting. That was huge. How to approach life in a new way. It sounded impossible. The piles of books that were piling up on my desk. Would I have the time to even read them? But my aim was super clear. So I started reading, I started writing, I started sketching, taking these tiny steps and testing on myself by taking action. If I look back, I built many tools, equations, formulas, and I'm going to share these with you in this channel. But in the beginning, I had nothing. And the most meaningful changes began with these 3 steps: aim, awareness, and action. Aim gave me direction, awareness gave me clarity, and action helped me bridge the gap between the two. Today, I challenge you to take the first step. Define your aim. Write down what you want and why you want it. Then look at yourself in the mirror, look at reality, and understand the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And then finally, take one small action towards that aim. Remember, every journey begins with a single step. And those steps, no matter how small, they'll take you to places you never even imagined possible. Now, if this resonated with you, stay tuned. We're gonna dive much deeper into awareness with a super powerful exercise. And I'm also gonna share with you 2 forces I uncovered within me that were pulling me in opposite directions. So subscribe to the channel and join me as we continue this incredible journey together of self-discovery. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in a future video.